Okay. Okay. Let's do the intro. Computers are hard. Okay, I think it's pretty good. Sorry about it. Computers are hard. It's not easy. All right, what's up? We're gonna do IDIOCRACY and break down truth, like real stuff. I'm JayDreamerZ, and we're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this and just see what kind of stuff there is. All right, so IDIOCRACY. This is just a crazy movie. That's why it's probably called that. I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody? It's good to see you. Let's break down IDIOCRACY. So, just real quick, if you've never seen this movie before, you don't have to. You don't have to, because it's real. Everything in this movie is your actual world. And what it looks like, how it sounds, what's going on, and how it's evolving and what it's changing into, or devolving, I should say, right? So let's jump into IDIOCRACY. What's up, everybody in the chat? I'm glad I can make everybody laugh a bit. So we begin this movie about the stupidity of the modern age and how we're just getting dumber and dumber, with a picture of the spherical, globular, weird looking ball Earth out there in space. And it says human evolution was at a turning point. And I think it's really interesting that this is the first image that they show in a movie about how retarded we've come. See, I'm still in character. How retarded we've come from like long times ago. Anyways, I'll show you that. So then we in this time they're showing you what happens to the world and why it's so dumb. We've got a couple of intelligent people, allegedly, who are asked during a documentary, when they're going to have kids. Are they going to have kids? And they're like, oh, not with the market the way that it is. Yes, that just wouldn't be wise. And then this lady's husband dies, so they don't end up having any kids, but she has some eggs that are frozen, right? So they're trying to be very intellectual about procreation and continuing on the DNA that's locked in their bodies, but they were a little too intelligent about things, right? This movie is a good way to show you that there's a neutral path, okay? You don't have to be the smartest person in the entire world, and you definitely don't need to be the dumbest, right? You definitely don't need to jump in line like everybody else. Now, while the smart people are busy not having kids because they're waiting for the right time and waiting for the economy to pick up and things of that nature, meanwhile, over in redneck country, wherever that may be, this guy right here in the middle, this total redneck guy, I forgot his name, but this guy at the top, Clevin, there it is. So Clevin's up here at the top, and he's getting down with everybody. He's having kids left and right, all over the place. Meanwhile, he's basically populating the entire world, which is really interesting because what they're trying to say is that his family, this sort of redneck family, because they're breeding so much that there is no nothing stopping them from just basically breeding to take over the world. It kind of reminds me of Braveheart. Remember that part where there was the King Longshanks the English king, and he says, if we can't get them out, we'll breed them out. This is the exact same thing. Prima Nocte in that movie. This is the same thing, but in reverse. It is all of the retarded people that have no limitation on their procreation rights, and they just breed the heck out of each other until the world is fully inbred, basically. Now, we meet the main character in the movie. We see that in the past, this movie starts off in the past, whenever that may be, pretty close to the modern day, and they show you this guy, Mr. Bowers, and it says he was primarily chosen for how remarkably average he is. This guy right here, right? So he's super average. He represents the average person in our world today. He doesn't really have a lot of drive, or, you know, he doesn't want to get things done. But what they're going to do is put him on a special mission with this girl right here. They're going to put them into these sort of casket-like objects that keep them frozen or asleep or whatever it is. And they're supposed to stay in there for 1 year. That's the project. This girl is a prostitute, so they took the average guy in the military, but they couldn't find an average woman. So they picked up a prostitute from the street, and basically she was like, yeah, I'll do it if you drop my charges and give me a fee. So they lay down in their little coffin things, and they're supposed to lay there, and they're going to put them to sleep in like a comatose type state for about a year. So the doctor leans over, he says, I'll see you in a year. This doctor's got a whole backstory about hanging out with some pimp and stuff, which we'll skip. But it says it hadn't even been a year, and the entire project was simply forgotten, because this doctor right here, who was in charge of the project, he ended up being arrested for being a pimp, basically, and starting like a prostitution ring within the military itself, which is not uncommon. That's something that happens in our modern day, and it has happened many, many different times, right? The problem is, the more these things happen, the more we're getting used to them, and the more normal these types of things become. All right. Now, we go way into the future, right? Because the doctor was arrested, right? They basically forgot about these two who are inside of their little future coffins or whatever. And time just keeps on going and keeps on going. And they were totally forgotten about until finally the military base was destroyed to make room for a Fuddruckers. And Fuddruckers is, you know, a family restaurant or whatnot, right? So they start building this Fuddruckers. Time passes, and they show you how much time is passing and how society is devolving based on just how the building looks. So they have Fuddruckers. And as you can see, you know, it looks like a regular modern day restaurant, but then we start going further in time into the future, and the name starts to change. So instead of Fuddruckers, it's now Futbuckers. Futbuckers. And that's pretty interesting. This shows you a bit of truth as well. As you can see, it's starting to get degraded. They're taking less care of their driveway here. But the reason, I want to talk about this name change real quick, from Fuddruckers to Futbuckers, and there's more to come too. This is what happens to our language. The language that you are speaking right now comes from this happening in our world. Language evolves and changes over time because of different dialects that people don't put restrictions on, that people don't enforce how language is said, and people start speaking in their own dialects and accents and stuff over time, which develop into entirely different languages. Right? So in the South, you might speak English, but if you go into the deep South, you might not understand a lot of people, and they might not understand you, or Ebonics, or, you know, various forms of English. I know it's very similar over in England and in the UK. They have people that speak the same language, but because of their accents, they would probably not even understand one another. Or at least we wouldn't understand them, and many of them sometimes probably don't understand us because of words changing over time, which is why our vowels were introduced. So the reason that we had vowels introduced into the alphabet is to force people to speak the way that it's supposed to be said, at least the way that they wanted those words to be said, so that they could retain their dialect, so that tribes, whenever they met other tribes that have spread out over time, could understand one another, and they can keep that communication going. So it changes from Fuddruckers into Futbuckers. I have to pronounce this very carefully. Into Butt Truckers. Let's check out Butt Truckers real quick. So you can see they've got like the handicap signs all changed, and this is supposed to be even further into the future. It looks like it says crippled parking or something. I can't really see it. It says home of the pounder, if you can catch their drift. Now we go way into the future, way off into the farthest future. These two are still in those coffins, but their trash has been piling up. They just pile up their trash in the modern world, just dumping it into places until it creates mountains of garbage. And the movie starts off when there's this great avalanche of garbage, right? That was actually recorded and memorialized in their history. Look at all this. This is not a mountain range or anything. This is a landfill. All of these little hills and stuff like that, this thing that this garbage truck is on top of is a landfill. And that directly reciprocates reality that we live in today. We have landfills that have gotten so high up that they're literally creating hills and mountains of garbage in the real world. This is actually a mountain of garbage. That's the garbage truck up there at the top, and it's going to dump one more time, and then all of that's going to like just slide down into the city. We have this in our world. This one right here is actually one of the world's largest garbage dumps. I believe this is near Las Vegas in Nevada in the United States. Here's another one. This one, I believe, is in Indonesia, right? The world's largest garbage dump. Let's take a look. Look, it's literally a mountain of trash all over the place. And in these places, you have people like these two, probably, I'm just guessing, that actually they're trash diggers. They walk around. Some people backpack through these places, going around picking up stuff. Some of these mountains of garbage in the real world, our world today, are so big that they have to make roads on the mountain of garbage. And then they have these tractors upon tractors that scoop it all the way back up to the top. The movie is a documentary. Now, Mike Judge, who made this movie, also he made Office Space, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time. He made this movie and he said it was supposed to just be a funny movie. However, if you've seen Office Space and some of his other works, you can tell that this is his style of truth. The truth is often said in jest. And while it's supposed to be a funny movie, it's kind of raunchy for me, for my taste. You know, there's some funny parts and stuff, but it's filled with a lot of truth. Now, there's this garbage landslide. And the two that were inside of the coffin, they just start riding the landslide inside of their little time capsules or whatever. And he ends up going right through this guy's living room. This guy's just sitting here. Let's check this dude out. This guy's name is Frito. Okay, probably Frito-Lay. And he's sitting in his advanced futuristic bathroom, living room, all-purpose chair, eating a tub of butter. I don't know if this is butter or not, but it doesn't matter. It's pretty much butter in the movie, like flavored butter. And they say like hand to mouth goodness or something, right? This is what people do, right? Is it wrong to eat butter? No, right? As an ingredient, butter can make things taste delicious. But over time, we tend to have forgotten that everything should be done in moderation, right? Butter should be an ingredient, not a food, right? You can eat butter, but if you want to sit there and eat a tub of butter, that should say something about our society. Now, the main character, whose name will become Not Sure, which is very close and very similar to other nicknames of other lead characters in the movies that we've broken down. It's basically a retarded way of saying Nemo, right? Nemo means no man or no one, right? So it's kind of very much similar. We have this guy who is a time traveler or a survivor of an apocalyptic event. In the movie, the apocalyptic event is just the downfall of society, basically. But he wakes up in a totally different world, just like the plasma apocalypse that we talk about on my channel so often. There will be people that survive the plasma apocalypse, and what they will be like and compared to the generations that grow afterwards. Imagine all the things that you know, just as an average person, right? Just your average person. You don't have to be a genius or anything. You're just a regular person, right? If you survive the apocalypse, right? And the entire world is terraformed, reshaped, things are getting sucked up into the air. That's what the whole garbage landfill symbolism is about, right? I think I actually have some more examples, right? So here's some more landfill garbage examples from various movies. Some of them we've broken down. This is The Fifth Element, where for some strange reason, they just have piles of garbage stacked up in the airport area. Another one, obviously, is very popular, is WALL-E. where they have all of this junkyard symbolism. This one is Alita, the battle angel. Same type of deal. In the future, they have all of these piles of junk and debris and garbage. This one is Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner movie. Same type of deal. It's like a trash world. Oftentimes, you'll see this in the movie. Keep your eyes out and you'll see the symbolism for the junkyard world. And what that is all the stuff gets sucked up during depressurization of our atmosphere, and not all of it gets sucked out. So much of that trash and debris and garbage and junk has to float back down, and it starts piling up in different places. And the people become trash diggers. They become relic searchers. They go out digging through all of this trash because it's all very valuable, because you can't replicate most of it anymore. If your average person like you and I survive the apocalypse, we don't know how to replicate cell phones or, many of us, right? We don't know how to make all of the technology that we're privy to in the modern age. So people will go sift through all of this garbage, trying to collect and repurpose what they can. If they can't figure out how to use it or make it work, they'll repurpose it, which gives rise to the steampunk world, the steampunk era. And you see this in a lot of movies where they have just piles of debris and junk that are all piled up in it. And it's a main part of many of these movies that you can find. This one right here is this one's a classic one. Oftentimes they will actually blend in various post-apocalyptic or specifically plasma apocalypse symbolism. So like this one right here is from that Netflix show Black Mirror. Is it Black? No, this is Love, Death, and Robots. Both very good. Love, Death, and Robots has this one about this guy who lives in a junkyard, and there's this alien creature that lives in the garbage. Just like in Star Wars, right? When they go down to the trash compactor and there's that weird Fantazoid alien creature living in the garbage or whatever. So he pops up out of the garbage. He's taking a look around. He sees the Fuddruckers, which has changed its name over time to something very inappropriate. At least, I mean, that's how I would feel, right? But they've become accustomed to it. They've grown used to these slight changes over time, just like the example of the frog that's slowly being boiled in the pot on the stovetop, right? If you slowly increase that heat, the frog won't notice, and it won't even notice that it's dying, that it's boiling to death, because it became so accustomed to the gradual rise in heat. Same thing that's happening to like these types of restaurants and stuff, right? Check this out. We have this today. Let me show you, okay? This Fuddruckers changing into inappropriate names and stuff, we have it today. Here are some examples of inappropriate restaurants and places where you can go out, family places where you can take your kids and eat and stuff. And it's all over the place. It's just that we've accepted this. This has become a part of our modern day, our modern society, where we can just name all kinds of weird stuff. People are naming their children inappropriate, strange things. You know what I mean? Just like the guy in the movie's name is Frito. Hey, thanks for the donations, everyone. I super appreciate it. This one blew my mind. This is real. I had to look this up, okay? I'm not going to read it or anything. You can easily read it. But it's a real restaurant. Very interesting. This one right here is pretty interesting too. It's a seafood restaurant. You can easily read this on the screen. I'm not gonna read it for you. But anyway, so this guy wakes up and he's looking around and he's like, man, there must be something wrong with me. He looks over at this hospital. This hospital, everything in this movie is decked out with ads. There's ads all over the place, just advertisements left and right? That's what the future is sort of based off of, is all of these advertisements. You can see that today. As a matter of fact, you can see that on this video right now. And speaking of Netflix and that Black Mirror TV show or series or whatever it is, they have an entire one where this guy lives in the future and he has to watch ads in order to like make money and stuff like that. So they have all of these advertisements all over the place, right? All right, so then he looks up at the movie theater and there's a movie that's playing that's really popular. It says the #1 movie in the country was called Ass. And you can see they changed the happy star into like a pissed off star from Carl's Jr. Now check this out. They actually show all of these people that are watching this movie. I'm not going to show you an image of the movie because, of what's on the picture. But it was nothing but a picture of somebody's butt, their bare butt, for 90 minutes. And they show you all these people laughing at it. And most people that watch this are like, ha, 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 ha. Oh my God, that's how stupid they are in the future, right? That they just watch a whole movie that's just a picture of somebody's butt. We would never do that in the modern age, would we? We would. We will. And we have. There was actually a movie that was made. Let's zoom in on this real quick. Now, I don't know how many people know this, but Andy Warhol actually made a movie called Taylor Mead's Ass. That's 90 minutes long in 1965. It was a hit. And it literally was it was physically, actually, realistically, the exact same thing that they show you in the movie Idiocracy that everyone's laughing at, and many of you probably did laugh at. But it's just showing you our world. It's showing you the world that we live in. This is an actual movie that was made in 1965. Look, it's got like, 6.2 stars or something? I can't see all that, but check this out. I did actually check out a part of the movie. I watched it and it's disgusting. Okay. It's base. It's exactly how they show you in the movie. Actually, I would say this, it's worse. Okay. If you check out this movie right here, real movie that really came out and really was put out, it is worse than what they show you in Idiocracy, because the dude is like pulling things out of his behind, and there's all kinds of weird play action that's going on there. Anyways, so he's walking around. People are starting to get weirded out because of the way that he's speaking. He has a decent vocabulary, so all the dumb people in the world, they're all slurring their words. They don't have a lot of, they don't spend a lot of energy doing anything. So they even became lazy in speech. They slur a lot of words and stuff. They just totally get words wrong. And so they lock him up and put him in a cage. And it says he would soon discover that in the future, justice was not only blind. Now, wait a minute. In the future, justice is not only blind, but had become rather retarded as well. That they're talking about the future. And many of us who watch this are like, we think to ourselves, oh man, I hope it never gets that bad. It is already and has been for quite some time this bad. They're just cartoonifying it. They're just taking it to the furthest extreme, which I have found whenever I share these types of things with people, I've found that many times I almost have to resort to examples that are extreme so that people can get it, so that people can understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So here's an extreme example of our modern world. If you go into the court systems today, it might look a little bit different, but it's basically the exact same thing as you see in the movie. Justice is blind. We did a whole video on this Lady Liberty or whatever, so check that one out if you're interested in it, all the symbolism with Lady Liberty, but specifically, they put a blindfold on Lady Liberty. That was not there originally. It was put on Lady Liberty as a form of, as a symbolic form of saying justice is blind. You will not be served justice. Justice is not impartial. It's completely biased, and it's messed up. That's why that is the reason. I'm not guessing. I'm not saying that's how it seems. I'm saying if you look it up, you will find that is the reason why the blindfold was put onto Lady Liberty. That's why. And then they just started changing the reason over time, right? Just add a little bit of time and that frog inside of that pot starts to boil, but it doesn't realize what's happening, right? They started changing the meaning of the blindfold, saying that, oh, Lady Liberty is blind to, looking at people's differences and really rooting out the truth and stuff like that. I'm telling you, that's a lie. That's not correct. That's what it has become over time due to our idiocracy. We have crazy circus acts that are going on in courtrooms across the world where justice is not being served. And it's actually a form of entertainment where people are watching it on TV and they tune into their favorite judges, and the judges are going to act accordingly because they know they're being watched and they want good ratings and stuff, right? You see where I'm going with that? So these guys decide, the ones that survived from the past, the time travelers, they decide that there must be a time machine in the future. How they decided this, I don't know, right? Except for, they're not being too intellectual about it, but they're like, yeah, there's got to be, it's the future, so they must have invented time machines by now, even though they're not accepting the world around them as is, right? They're not picking up on the clues that are everywhere, all the way around them. They're literally just blind to the world around them. If they think that in this type of an environment, in this type of a society, they're going to find a working, a real time machine, you know what I mean? Which they don't. They don't end up finding the time machine. They're looking for it, but it's a lost cause. So that leads them to Costco. Costco is basically like Walmart in the future. It's this huge, gigantic place that just has everything, right? There are no small businesses. Everything is corporately ran, and the people don't care. They don't mind. They have restaurants and businesses that you would recognize, but they've been distorted and they have changed slightly over time as their logos have changed just slightly over time, and they basically become something completely different, or they return to their appropriate original origins, just like Starbucks. Let's check out Starbucks' logo real quick, right? In the movie, you can tell it's a Starbucks chick up there. So here's the modern day Starbucks. I'm going to show you how this works, okay? Now, this is, you might think, a princess, and I guess she has like two fish tails or something, or maybe she's a mermaid, and we just kind of leave it at that, right? It's the Starbucks mermaid. That's not a mermaid. First and foremost, mermaids don't have two different tails. That's like a Siamese mermaid or something, you know what I mean? This is what is known as a siren. It's also based on various goddesses of times past. But it's supposed to represent a siren. The sirens were those entities, may not have been actual physical things, but those entities that were described as being these enticing female seducers out at sea that try to like expose their breasts and stuff like that to sailors, and they sing beautiful music to try to get them in, to lure them in so that they can kill them, or so that they drown in the ocean or crash their boats or whatever. So seduction was used by Starbucks originally, and over time they had to sort of adjust it, because some people started to see, like, wait a minute, what's going on here in this picture, right? So instead of showing you that this is all connected, right, they made it so you can't tell that these two tails are actually the same, the two legs basically of this woman who represents a siren. She's spreading her legs for you. And that is exactly why Starbucks chose this image. If you don't believe me, go research it and look it up, and you'll see, you can easily find articles from the guy who started Starbucks, and this is what he says. I think I have it here. Oh, this is really interesting. So this is what it would look like from behind. Somebody made an actual image of the Starbucks siren chick from behind. And this is what you are seeing when you go out and you get your Starbucks and stuff. This is their whole purpose, is to try to entice you to getting stuff. It's not about the product or anything. It's about the popularity. It's about what everyone's doing. And this is actually from the article, one of the articles. Howard Schultz later said in his book, this is the dude that started the Starbucks, the siren was supposed to be as seductive as the coffee itself, which is why they show you that particular logo, and why they have covered up certain parts of that logo so that it's a little more difficult for people to understand. But your brain is pretty intelligent and can figure out what it's really looking at, right? So it's subliminal, basically. All right, now we meet the president, Camacho. I really wanted them to put some Old Spice stuff in here, because he's always on the Old Spice commercials or whatever. But anyways, this president in the future, he gets up there and it's very much a show, right? He's playing to the crowd. It's like WWF. He's like, oh yeah, and we're gonna need this and we're gonna need that. They even have like a dude playing the organ in the background to play like some music. They do that. It's most notably in churches. You'll see this. You can go to I've been to like the hundreds and hundreds of churches, right? And there are many different churches that have these types of preachers, or whatever you want to call them, and they start getting into the ghost voice, duh, and somebody hits it. Like they have someone playing the organ, because the organ is a vibration, or any type of music, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to hypnotize and strengthen the spell that is being cast at the audience using music, using these tones, which is oftentimes an organ itself, right? That's why they put organs, huge, gigantic organs in cathedrals, right? Because they wanted to strengthen that vibration that was entering into those cathedrals or healing places. So they would play music to tune those frequencies. The exact same scenario happens whenever you have the preachers in there and they're saying, we're going to watch the truth in movies. And then someone's like, duh. And then it starts to affect you. It starts to affect people, right? It's a way of strengthening a spell, basically, right? And then he gets out a gun. It's just all show. And this is supposed to be one of the world leaders. Our world leaders have been doing this type of stuff since as far back as the very first, George Washington for the United States. And I'm sure all of your other countries have very similar things, right? Where we have voted for people simply based on their popularity. That's it. It's a popularity contest. It's just like the WWF, like pretty soon they'll have introduction music and lasers and lights. And it's all this drama between one side and the other side. And many times you can actually find all of these world leaders and stuff participating in the exact same types of shows like the WWF, right? On this one, they have Camacho riding a motorcycle or something like that. I don't know what that is. The flags in the back are really interesting too. Let's check out these flags real quick. So these flags are not regular flags for the United States, but they're actually advertisements. So the stars are like the Carl's Jr. star, and there's words back here for the different things or whatever. And our modern day is no different. Not different whatsoever, right? The movie is just showing you your world to an extreme degree so that you can put two and two together, so that you can figure out, wait a minute, this isn't fiction that I'm watching. Somebody is sharing something with me that is profound because it resonates with the modern day, right? Oh, this whole thing too, with them flipping everyone off. I've actually seen this in a few different movies. There's this movie I watched recently. I'm probably not going to break it down because it's kind of boring, but it's this movie where everyone explodes in the future if they're not happy. If they get depressed or something, then they explode. And it's just accepted by everybody. But the way that they greet each other is they give them the bird. I'm not going to do it because, I want to try to keep it as clean as I can. But yeah, it's like a greeting, and that's what happens. And this is the type of thing that can be changed over time. Let me give you an example, right? We've got certain presidential figures. One of them is Biden, right? Let's do Biden. Where's Biden? So here's Biden right here. Now, somebody started this whole thing of F Joe Biden, or what do they say? Something, go Brandon, let's go Brandon, or something like that, right? Now, do you see how it goes from F Joe Biden to let's go Brandon, meaning the exact same thing, but totally different words? Some people will forget what that was even originally about. They'll forget all about Joe Biden and how it was a crowd that was being misheard by a reporter at NASCAR or whatever it was, right? And they'll forget all about that. Instead, people will just start saying, let's go Brandon, for some other reasons. And it starts to evolve over time. That can turn into F Joe Biden or whatever, which means like F yeah. Like F yeah, let's go Joe Biden, or let's go president, or F yeah. And basically that can turn into a greeting. It can turn in from something bad into something good. Just like the word sick, right? Maybe 50 years ago, if you said that something was sick, then that means it wasn't well and it was ill. It was a bad thing. Now, or at least in the 90s when I was growing up, you could say, oh, that's sick. And it really meant that's awesome. That's good. That's a positive thing, right? We do that quite often with many of our different words. Now, there's a problem in the future. The plants are not growing and there's a dust bowl happening. I will tell you this is a plasma apocalypse type of symbolism in the future, where we go from the water world to the desert world, right? Or to the tropical world that has much more deserts than it does today. And then they're showing you that they have this Brondo. This Brondo, it's basically Gatorade. It's like retarded Gatorade. Excuse me. Oh, that's another weird thing too. This movie uses all kinds of words that I don't believe that this movie, if it came out today, would have been able to have even made it, just based off of the verbiage and the vocabulary that they use, because they use so many words that are offensive today. It never would have made it. As a matter of fact, I can't even repeat many of the things that they say in this movie on my live stream today, because of certain expectations that are held at, certain standards that YouTubers are held to. So it says Brondo, the thirst mutilator, had come to replace water. Gatorade. Basically, some sugary drink had come to replace water. How much water are we drinking? I know I'm not drinking enough water, so I'm going to be the first person to raise my hand and say, man, that's me. I've got literally coffee in this little cup right here. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I joke sometimes, like if I have some soda, and someone's like, oh, you should drink water. I'm like, that's the main ingredient in my soda right here, or whatever. I'm just kind of joking. However, it's dead serious. People are slowly stopping drinking water. You know what I mean? And then we have other people that are scaring people about drinking water because, oh, what kind of water are you drinking? Well, I'm drinking like tap water. Oh, you can't drink tap water. That's poison. It's got all this stuff in it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I'm drinking bottled water. Oh, don't drink bottled water either, man. That's got plastic stuff in there and it can kill you and blah, blah, and it's poison. And what you need to do is like trap the rain and reverse osmosis and then this and that. And then you could drink it. You got to drink water the way I drink water. So, I mean, pretty soon, your average person might get a little fed up and feel a little overwhelmed that no matter what they do, somebody out there is going to say it's bad for them. So they're just kind of like, screw it, and they just start drinking Brondo. And pretty soon, because all of the people are drinking Brondo, they start giving it to the animals because they figure, oh, well, if we can eat it, it should be good for our animals too. So we sort of project this onto the animal kingdom, assuming that because this is what we do as humans, that the animals should do this too. You see this today all over the place, that people are starting to treat animals like they're starting to attribute their own lifestyle to the animal. Or they're starting to project that onto the animal, right? That the animals should live in the same manner that humans live, right? They should be eating, we should feed cows hamburgers and have them drink Brondo or whatever, right? And what that does is it has an adverse effect on everything in the world. It has a domino effect where everything starts getting worse and worse and worse, and it starts to deteriorate. Basically, this is entropy in the world today as everything starts falling apart. And it says that the Brondo was used to water or to feed the plants, right? Killing plants and leading to a dust bowl. Now, also really interesting too, just a quick note on the dust bowl. I highly recommend checking out this study. It's a study on how electricity can actually create dust bowls, right? When you have a high charge that's in the atmosphere, that charge can lift dust up into the air, and the stronger that charge is, the heavier the dust can be. So it can actually lift up sand and dirt and other things if the electrical current is strong enough. Now, we go to the far future where... Oh, I'm sorry. So basically this dude whose name is not sure, he gets arrested and he totally escapes jail just by lying and saying, oh, I'm actually supposed to get out of jail today or out of prison or whatever. And they're like, oh, you need to go in that line, dumbass, or whatever. So he totally escapes prison and jail. It's super easy. They see him as the smartest person alive, right? They see him as the smartest person alive. Hold on, I'm gonna pause the presentation real quick because I want to talk about this. This is what I first started talking about. If your average person, me, you, it could be whoever, right, survives the plasma apocalypse, you wake up in a future disoriented. All of those survivors, they wake up with your common knowledge, your common knowledge of the modern society that we have today. Then you have procreation kicking in. People are starting to have children, and they're starting to have children. They're starting to have children. They don't have any of the education that you have been privy to in the modern world. So think about what that's going to do to accents, to dialect, to language, to speech, to how people communicate, to what is considered normal, to what is considered moral or immoral, right? The world can rapidly change in 1 or 2 generations quickly. All right. So anyways, they put him into this like death match type of a thing in the future because he told them you need to put water on the plants so that they can grow. And they're like, water? Like from the toilet? Like that's the only thing they know of water is useful for, is flushing down stuff in the toilet, right? So they're like, yeah, toilet water. We're going to put toilet water. You put toilet water on the plants and it's not working or whatever, right? So they put him into this sort of death match deal or whatever where he has to fight for his life. But then they see that the water actually is working and it's helping the plants to grow or whatever. This guy, the main character, his name is not sure. He's wearing all orange, which also represents the survivors. Okay, the color orange, especially whenever it's worn and paraded around by main characters in the movies, typically those characters represent survivors of an apocalyptic scenario, right? The color orange, the 33rd degree, the number 33, all of these things that point back to Mount Meru and the color spectrum of our sky changing, right? The sky's color is changing right now. The color of the sun, the brightness, the intensity, all of these things are slowly changing, but most people don't know. Most people don't pick up on it because it's happening gradually instead of suddenly. The problem with that is that the more that things change gradually and we become accustomed to those things and they become normal, the more we get used to things changing, and pretty soon any type of change is just considered normal. You know what I mean? There is no standard of morality. There is no standard of normalcy or anything in the world today. So this guy ends up becoming the smartest person in the whole world, right? The smartest person in the whole world, just because, look at, it says American Express in the background. Just because he's a survivor from the modern age, right? The people in the future are us that have had children after an apocalyptic event, and after that apocalyptic event, we are thrown back into the Stone Age. We become cavemen, or we appear like cavemen. If you were to meet, for example, let's say you survived the apocalypse and you were to meet, let's say you could time travel and meet like your great-great-great-great-great-grandson, and that's 5 generations after the apocalypse had happened, right? You could expect that people might appear sort of caveman-like. You know what I mean? Like in how they speak and how they talk, or their mannerisms, their styles, and the social norms that they have going that far into the future. Just like if you had somebody from 500 years ago come into the modern world, they would think that we're all strange and weird and all messed up. Your stuff's all messed up. I can't say it the way that they say it. But anyways, they all start cheering for him. They're going, not sure, not sure. Not sure is just the same as saying Nemo, right? Nemo means no man, right? Or no one, nobody. Specifically, it means no man, basically. And that's sort of a code. It's a code word that's used in a lot of the movies that implies survivors, right? The survivors are the ones who are left over after the apocalypse. And the word Nemo, the root of that literally means the leftover portion. That's what it really means. It doesn't mean no man specifically. It means that these are people of the leftover portion. They are the leftovers from the apocalypse. They are the victors. They are the survivors. They are the ones who made it into the next world. This is one of our shortest truth in movies ever. I know everyone's really excited, but it was a really simple one. So I did want to share this one with you. And I want to say thanks for joining me today. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put together a compilation to play over the weekend. So if everybody wants to hang out and jump in the chat and watch some of my older videos just to get caught up, you can do that this weekend. If you're watching live, of course. If you're not, then, you know, go into my playlist and check some stuff out. Lots of awesome changes on the horizon for my channel. I've already completed, I'm working on my new book. For those of you who are interested in, it's going to be about Hyperborea, the land beyond the north. And I have a special where if people pre-order my book right now, I've created like a unique bookmark, a JayDreamerZ bookmark that you'll get to go along with that if you pre-order, and a sticker and some other stuff. Like I got some little cool things, you know, some little fun things for you guys to have. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'm sorry that it was so short, but at the same time, you know, I'm used to talking for as long as the movie is. So, and if you're watching in the future, go back and read the comments at the very beginning. It's pretty fun. It's a good time. All right. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.